Okay, on today's video, we're going to talk about how to increase your PPC campaign lead close rates. In other words, how many leads or how many sales you should make, or the number of sales that you get to make from set amount of leads that you generate from your PPC campaign ads, whether that's Google search, Bing, Facebook, wherever you're running ads online, okay? Number of leads you get, how do we turn them into more sales? For a lot of you guys out there, this is the one thing that's really your make or break that's determining whether or not your campaign works or not. Why? Because a lot of people they don't understand and think of the importance and know the importance of having a good process for closing the leads. In other words, they just totally kind of wing it. They think, oh, the PPC, if it's going right, my problems are all solved. I can tell you for a fact that that's not the case. We're going to explain why. And what you can do to set up a foolproof system, basically, that you could put into place that'll basically will solve all your problems if you just follow what I usually tell clients and what I've studied on clients' campaigns over the years that they have for their own campaigns that get it to work, basically, okay? So it's not that difficult to do. And like everything else when you're doing PPC advertising, all your other competitors know of PPC. It's out there. What determines you getting it to work versus them, or most of them, is are you willing to put in a little bit of extra effort that they're not willing to put in, i.e. you're turning this and you're serious about the process itself and getting it to work. You're not going to be like most people that are just going to wing it, blame the PPC ad, and then quit. Okay? So anyway, with all that said, I'll go into a background about this real briefly, and then we'll go right into how to actually execute this for yourself so you can increase your close rates enough to where your campaign should be profitable. If they're kind of teetering over the edge right now, you need an 8-to-1 return on your ad spend, and you have a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 return right now. This can get you there if your sales process right now and the process you use to get a lead close rate, as per how I kind of announce it here, is a mess or just not sophisticated at all at this point. So anyway, there's two parts to this. What happens before the lead responds affects your close rates on the leads you get, meaning before they call or before they fill out the contact form, and what happens after they call or they fill out the contact form. So you have two sides of this. Technically, you actually do have to focus on both sides in order for both sides have an effect on your lead close rates, okay? Just bottom line. You technically could work more on one versus the other. One could be completely sloppy and one could be excellent, and you might be able to get by where your campaign's profitable then. If you work on both, that's the ideal situation. Both need to be optimized for it to work well. Let's just say that. You could get it good enough with one, but you can get it to work well if you get both of them going. So you're optimizing. So in other words, before they respond, it comes down to mostly whom, so that before they call or fill out the contact form and they actually turn into a lead, comes down to mostly who you attracted in the first place. So this is a little bit like the whole Sun Tzu Art of War thing. When you go into war with your competition here, whoever prepares most wins before the battle's even fought. How you set up your campaigns in which who they attract in the first place will affect your lead close rates, because it's no secret, as you know, if you get a crappy lead, you're not going to close it at the same rate as a good lead. Well, how do you know how to get a good lead? Well, it comes down to the person that you put the ad in front of in the first place. Well, how do you actually optimize that? That comes down to a couple main things that anybody can optimize. That is the keyword that you're using, or in replacement of this could be the audience, like the website that the ad is on, basically where you're pulling the traffic from primarily. And then the second layer of that, second aspect of that, is the demographics. Also, you could say psychographics. So a lot of people overlook the demographic, psychographic thing. They say, okay, I sell wind turbine repair or inspection and repair here. Okay, that's my keywords, I'm bidding on them. But there's a big difference between one person who searches for that and another. One person might have 1,000 windmills to inspect. Another person could have 10. Well, how do you differentiate? How do you attract the one versus 1,000 versus a 10 versus the 10? Assuming that you can serve both of them, right? Why not? It makes sense to just go after the whale here. It all comes down to statistics and using your data. So you could, that's right, you do have to have the keywords right in the first place. You're totally not going to have any opportunity to make this work. But the person who searches their age, their gender, the device that they're on, what time of the day they search, are they searching during the week, during the weekends, what state they're from, / what city where they're from, / what zip code they're from, will all have a slightly different crowd of people. And so what you need to do is you need to be able to have data. Half of what the value is in doing PPC is having the data that told you what worked versus what didn't work, or what worked kind of versus not quite as well. Because everything with this is really not on or off. It's about, well, males, they converted at 60%. They got 60% of my, sales on equal budget as did females. So I'm going to spend a little bit more for males versus females from now on. And you do that all the way down the line. But with that said, where people, first of all, most people don't even do that. 90% aren't even doing that. But that's only going to take you so far, and it's going to be very misleading. It's only going to get you a little bit, actually, in terms of increasing your close rates. To really increase your close rates, you need to be able to take the sales revenue data that you have from a CRM or whatever system you're using to track your leads, or your your accounting software. When you make a sale, to take that data and put it back into your ad account or wherever you're at. Facebook allows this, Bing allows this, Google allows this. So you could see that males derive $25,000 worth of revenue and females derive $15,000. And as per how much you spent on each one of those to attract the leads in the first place, this one had this ROI, this one had this ROI. So now I'm going to bid, XYZ per click here for males, versus I'm willing to bid XYZ for females. And maybe I bid so low that females, I don't even track much of them anymore, but that's okay, because if it can't make me any money at the 8-to-1 return or anything that I'm looking for, well, then I'm just going to not worry about it. I'm just going to go after the part of the pie that is getting me the quality of lead that can make me the amount of money that I want to make. And I'll let all the rest of my competition gobble up the stuff that they don't know is profitable, because it's probably not profitable from them either. And now what happens? Now they're in the position thinking, why isn't my ads working? When really you are just basically giving them all the crap. So the data awareness to tell what type of users, when they search for your keywords, that you should be spending your set budget on matters, will get you a better quality lead and a higher close rate on your leads, as well as finding the right keyword. On the keyword level, it's the same thing. You can see how much revenue is driven from each one of your keywords. And if there's certain keywords that are driving a bunch of leads but no revenue, well, then you take it down a notch in terms of what you're willing to spend. And you do that using bid modification formulas. You can Google that. And the process you use to get it back into your ad account is called offline revenue tracking. And I have a video for that. I have a blog post on that on our site. It looks complicated, but it's not. But if you really want to take this seriously and get higher close rates, the longer you advertise and the more data you have, the better the close rates will get by doing what I just described here. And so you could expect, if you don't have the close rates you want today, it'll keep getting better as long as you work the system. The more data you have, the more space you're going to be able to put between you and your competitors, and the less likely they're going to be able to ever make it work. So that's what you want to do. Now the other half of it is, of course, after they respond. Now how do we optimize that? That's about half of it as well, in terms of what is the close rates on the leads going to be. So after they respond, you need a process. The process can't be, I'm going to let my secretary answer the phone and I'm going to expect that secretary is going to say, hi, you'd like to order? Okay, what's your credit card number? It's just like A good analogy for this is if you owned a car dealership, everybody hates car salesmen, but they all have car salesmen on the lot for a reason. If you were expected to find the car on your own and then go in and say, I would like to buy this car, where do I sign? You're not going to sell nearly enough to have your advertising work, which your competition has double or triple the ROI from the same ad that's available in the same local market, where you're forced to do it. So you need somebody on the phone who actually knows how to sell, basically, in other words. No, it's not, just up to chance, and it's not just the lead quality. Of course, you could get the lead quality, like I said, good enough to where it probably work anyway, even with a secretary answering, because the lead is going to be so good at that point. But if you want to work it, extra well, then you should optimize this. Now, this is the harder thing for people to optimize because it's generally a little bit more expensive, as well as a little bit more labor intensive. Now, generally speaking, you start out and do this whole process yourself. Why? Because the owner is usually the best salesperson. You do it yourself until you have no time left and you actually have figured out how this process should work. A lot of people, if they're not a salesperson, they go hire a salesperson, you're probably going to get screwed because you don't understand. Good salespeople are going to be able to sell you on them being a good salesperson, and without you knowing any better, that's not going to work. If you do hire somebody and you're not a salesperson, by the way, which you do have to hire a salesperson if you're not, to be able to optimize this end of the equation here. The easiest thing to do is to go to your competitor and poach their salesperson, because at least then you know that they can sell something. They may not be the best person, but you at least that's the best way for you, a non-salesperson, to know if this person could sell or not. So if you're not a salesperson, hire one, then document the process, whether you're doing it or the salesperson that you hire is doing it. You're going to craft the rebuttals. Everybody that asks questions when they call or turn into a lead before they buy, in other words, they'll ask the same 10 or 20 questions. You're basically going to use, you or the person who knows how to defuse what they call rebuttals, or just things that they ask to kind of see if they should buy or not. And you document those so that when you hand them off to somebody who's not quite as good of a salesperson, when you try to scale your sales team past one person, if that's your ambition, then it's going to be easier to hire a less experienced salesperson to do the job, because you may not be able to afford the $100K a year sales guy to answer the phone. There's not enough margin in your business, but you could take a way cheaper salesperson, and as long as they know how to regurgitate the answers, that may work. So you're going to document those. You're going to use our CRM system. People don't recognize the value of this, but you got to be able, so the leads, they're not always going to be coming at the same rate. They're going to have weeks where there's hardly any leads. And to optimize your salesperson's time, given they're expensive, when there's downtime, they need to be able to go and know the leads that were the closest to buying, so they can follow up those people first and down the line. Because so that they stay busy, you're optimizing their time. And if you don't do any follow-up, you're not going to make as much money. If you only talk to one person one time, if they don't buy right then, you forget about them, you're going to lose about half your money. Or let's just say maybe 10 to 100% of your money, somewhere in that range difference by market. The CRM is the best way to track that. It's also the best way to track multiple people's sales efforts and compare and contrast them, because you're going to have to let salespeople go. You got to have a way to track them. And then you're also going to invest in the process steps. So once you actually have done this, you've proved you can do it or the salesperson can do it, then you're going to optimize each individual step. When you initially talk to them, when you go to their location, you sell it there, and you're going to try to optimize each chunk. You're not going to optimize everything all at once, but each chunk you optimize separately. And you're going to perform little experiments. You're going to try to add more to it. You're going to add less to it, because sometimes it's too complicated. The other way you optimize is you automate it with software, stuff like that. Or maybe you get a back office person to do some part of it for you as well. But you try to optimize the process so it takes less time for that high-powered expensive salesperson, which is the one reason you do it. The other is, obviously, the different things that you can do there may have a different psychological effect on the average person, which leads to higher close rates. So you can optimize that. Once you got it so far, you're ready to hire somebody else. But respectively, it'll be years before you really have figured out all the little fine-tuning you can do to your sales process, just to let you know. Generally speaking, that's how it works. But the more into the process of it you do, that you document and then fine-tune there, the better, the easier it is going to be able to take a poor to average salesperson and get them to work the system, okay? The main thing is, the reason why I keep harping on the average to poor salesperson and all of this, and using the best salesperson to document it and then use that to copy paste over to the poorer salesperson, is because if you have a job ad, let's say on monster.com or Indeed, and you put that you're trying to hire salespeople, what you're going to find is most of the people you hire can't sell, particularly if you're going to offer a flat rate or salary plus a little bit of commission. Why? Because that's why sales jobs, the people that can really sell, charge so much. Not everybody can do it. And why I said you need to be able to cross-compare these. You got to have a process of weeding out the bad people. For about every 10 people you hire, one of them will be able to do really well. And so you got to be able to hire 10, keep one, and then hire 10, keep one. But respectively, you'll have a higher and higher chance to be able to keep more of them, the better the process is set up ahead of time. Knowing that the average salesperson's not that great, and the people that are great, there's such a high demand for them, it's hard to get them in the first place. Sometimes you'll get them to apply, but you can't expect it near every time. And so with all that said, and like I said at the beginning, a good salesperson might be $100,000 a year. And you may say, oh, I don't have, maybe even if they would be able to make money for me, but I don't have $100,000 a year up front to self-finance them. Okay, so here's a little trick. If you can't afford a good enough salesperson to make your numbers on scale here, hiring the salesperson and then having to sell so much just to pay for you got to have $50,000 up front just to finance this person to get going here. Here's a small trick here. You hire commission salespeople. So commission, in other words, you don't pay a salary. They have to sell in order to make money. Respectively, if you hire someone purely on salary, they're not going to oversell, meaning they're not going to embellish anything. Because why? There's no incentive to. They don't want to get in trouble. But then they won't sell as much. If you hire a commission salesperson, they are going to sell more because they're going to over embellish. They have to sell to make more money, and the person who takes that job is more money hungry in general, let's just say. The personality is different. And so what I've found as a little hack is, so first of all, if you post a job saying you're looking for salary or commission salespeople, people say to me all the time, the first time I say something about this, they'll say, you cannot find people like that. If you have hot leads, you will find people who will work purely on commission. If you don't believe me, go try it yourself. Post a job on Craigslist, anywhere. Fire hot leads. More leads than we can handle. We need commission salespeople to close these leads. You will have people that will apply to that job. Then you need no money up front. Again, you're still going to only have one person out of 10 that's going to do a good job, and you'll have to hire 10, and you'll have to know how basically you're going to give them 100 leads, and you'll know ahead of time, well, I got to have them close XYZ number of leads. If they can't do it, I'll track it all in my CRM, I'll let them go, and then, once I'm down to one, I'll hire 10 more, that kind of thing. But to prevent them from overselling, because people also have a problem that they hire a commission salesperson, they don't watch them close enough, they will overpromise, and then what happens? There's a lot of refunds. You might even get bad reviews later on. So as a part of your comp plan, you'll say that you'll give them the commission, but whatever that comes back in terms of refunds gets taken out. And you pay them enough, that way after the normal amount of refunds that an average person would get is taken out, the pay is still reasonable to them, having to take the added risk of being a commission salesperson, so on and so forth, and having to pay all their taxes and all that stuff. Commission salespeople are going to make more. It's like hiring a freelancer. But on top of that, you could also say if anybody leaves a bad review that you sell, you're also going to get docked here. And obviously you can't full blast them right away because they may damage your reputation greatly before you ever figure it out. But that's a cool workaround for that. Okay, so if you start out documenting the process and then you give it to somebody who only works and gets paid when they get a sale, and you have a way to, without waiting too long, know if that person actually can sell, so you could weed them out, add a way to make sure they don't lie, then you got something that can scale pretty well. It's still better if you could hire the 100K person that's already experienced and then just let them use the system, even if you did that, you'd want everybody using the same system so that the leading guy out of them can test individual parts of the sales process, and when they find something that works, all the rest of the salespeople can do it. And as another thing to that, when this leading sales guy tests your sales process, if they find something that works, you want to give them a bonus. Yes, you'll make more sales because you're using it. Yes, we're going to give you a budget to test certain things. And if you do find something that actually legitimately increases the close rates by more than 5%, we'll give you a $5,000 bonus. So they're constantly looking for stuff. Otherwise, why should they care? They're making good enough money. Who cares about it? So anyway, that's how you build a sales team. Maybe you have money to just skip a lot of these steps, hiring, trying to pick the C team and then building the C team up. Maybe you just hire the A team. But with that process right there, you can consistently keep improving your close rates, and it'll allow you to scale at the same time so that you don't have to worry about, so that you can have a scalable strategy, which will also, at the same time, you will increase your close rates while you're doing it. Since most of you guys out there also need to think about scaling, you can't just use one salesperson if your PPC is working and you're optimizing on the PPC side, and you know that the PPC lead cost is getting cheaper there, because if you work there and you want to scale it, at some point you will have to scale, and then therefore now you have in mind what your options are, that kind of thing. And so just so that this video would be relevant to everybody else. Now, all that said, here's some other key things that you can use to increase your close rates on your leads that you have coming in right now or on your future campaigns. First thing is, never give up on a lead. You tell your salespeople, or if you're doing it yourself, by the way, if you're doing it yourself, you're probably not going to get PPC to work. I don't even recommend doing PPC at all. If you're doing the work and you're doing the sales, don't do it. Because when somebody calls and you send them to voicemail, they're just going to call the next person. Plus, they're going to think, well, if I have a complaint later on, I may never get to talk to anybody. People are thinking ahead of time. And you're the same way, so you can't get angry or upset. You'd be thinking the same thing. Work on stuff, referrals, write content, whatever, until you've got enough volume to where you could actually, there's a dedicated person answering the phone and which can sell. Then you can use PPC, and then you'll scale up to the moon from there. But with your people, if you're doing the sales full-time or somebody else, don't ever give up on a lead. I mentioned using a CRM before so you can see who best to follow up on first. But if somebody says, so in other words, you're looking for a yes or a no. Salespeople say, I want to know so I know to stop talking to them. Because the best salespeople know you never give up on somebody. There's only yes or no. If they say maybe, that means you follow up in a month, or 2 months, or a week, or a year, something. And you say, okay, I'll schedule a follow-up 1 year, and then you follow up again. And then, okay, not now, year. But you never actually stop following up until they say, stop contacting me, or no. And when they say no, you can still follow up on them. No doesn't mean no overall. It usually means no right now. 3 years from now, it could mean yes, just not the right time. If they're irate, they say, do not contact me. Obviously, you take them off your list then. But that one thing right there can increase your close rates 10 to 100%, because generally speaking, the sale is often made on the 4th or 5th contact. There's plenty of research on this. Add that to your process, you now have a turnkey way to increase your close rates. Direct mail. This is something our own firm uses. I'm a published author, wrote a book on how to do PPC display ads and how to make money with them. After I talk to somebody, if they're not decided yet and they're considering other firms, I send them my book with a few other materials in the mail. Why? Because my competition aren't doing that. Other people are going to think this is too expensive, too bothersome, whatever. If you're the only one that does it, the person's going to think this company is different. They actually care or seem to care. I will hire them. For the people who aren't trying to just hire the cheapest ones, which in any market it's really only 10 or 20% of what the cheapest one, respectively, they want the most value. Where's the most value at? So if you don't have a book, you send them a brochure in the mail with something that says, appreciate you contacting us, here's some more information. That way when you follow up later, they remember you and they want to talk to you, and it's just going to give you that much more of a response, and then therefore you'll get a little bit higher close rates. You can upwards of double your close rates by sending them a package with enough material in there. I've seen it done, and with a pile of testimonials. Because ultimately, if they see 100 testimonials in there, all handwritten out, not handwritten, but they're going to be thinking, "Holy crap!" And they're going to be so blown away by that. Think about how you can not just please the customer, but totally blow them away. Because that you can obviously automate that. Just make 100 packages ahead of time. As soon as they respond, the salesperson tells the person sending the packages out, send one out like we do, and then you're done. And like I said, you're going to test each aspect of your sales process. So once you get to the part where you can test this, you test it, you track how much more that increases your close rates in your CRM. And if it works, you factor in the cost of what you're doing. And if it makes sense, you add that to forever more into your sales process. 3, add multiple price points. So this is one thing that a lot of people don't think of. There are some people who are more price sensitive. If you have one price, I recommend having 2 options. One that's a cheaper option, which you could chop out most of the other stuff that they technically could go without, that's cheaper. That way, if you want to, but that way, if they are price sensitive and they want the cheap one, well, they can still go with you. They like the salesperson they talk to, which a lot of the sales process and the good salespeople that do sell a lot, they have charisma. That's why you could sell more than the average person. That's why good salespeople can too. So they like the charisma of the person, but they don't have the money to afford what you're charging. So, okay, well, we'll do half the stuff. You hire us anyway. Here's the second option. And they'll go with it more often than you think. And that will overall increase the money that you're doing. And obviously you're doing half the work. Maybe it still will work for you. That can increase your close rates by a good 20, 30, 40, 50% just in itself. And then lastly, the remarketing. So I talk about this many times in many different videos here. Just like what I was saying about the direct mail, what you put in the package you would send out to them in the mail, whether the testimonials. You have testimonials in your remarketing ads that follow people around after they leave your site. So whether they even responded before they respond, after they respond, but before they actually buy, you have these ads showing up for people for typically months, because sometimes it's months before people really decide to buy from the time they initially get to your site, which they may be way back in the sales process when they get to your site. Even if they're typing in buy metal roofing, that person may be not considering buying for 6 months. A lot of people don't think about this or know this. And so you'll do a lot better if you have an automated remarketing process that you use to follow up that person every day with a different ad almost every day during that whole process. So when they do go to buy, you're the first person they think of. Therefore, they think you're the most trustworthy. They tie the two together. And so to do this, you'll just have a testimonial in an ad just by itself, their picture, before and after photo if you have it, the full name if you can get it, and the testimonial. And you have that in an ad. The next day you show another testimonial. The next day after that you show another testimonial. And this process will rotate the testimonials out through a standard remarketing campaign. And that person will get that. They won't get it from the competition again. Therefore, they'll buy from you when they finally do decide to buy at a higher rate. Through the name recognition alone, than they would get through somebody else. And you can have case studies in there. You can have, if you have a mention in a magazine, newspaper, blog, you can mention that, because what somebody else says about you is 4 times as strong as what you could say about yourself. You could have testing of your product or service, and you send people to that on a blog post. You could mention that your Google reviews are great, your Yelp reviews are great, put that in the ad. That's another way to build up a person's confidence. So I usually will have 5 to 10 different ads like that rotate out for the user as they're deciding to buy, longer than most people will take to buy, but so I get the full benefit out of it, because guess what? It only costs a penny to have the ad like that show up for the person once. So you could literally have the ad show up 100 times for somebody for $1. And it costs what to get the lead in the first place? You might as well do it. Because I can tell you another thing that could increase your lead close rates by 10 to 100%, depending on how well you do it, and depending on if there's any competition doing anything like that, which again, 90% of people aren't going to be doing anything close to that. And if they are, it's just, hey, you want to buy yet? No? How about now? No? How about now? No? How about now? And people just get pissed off and they just ignore it. Whereas you're not going to do that. You're actually going to try to help the buyer decide. And even though you may not have the best product, just being there will actually increase your close rates. I can guarantee you that, because this is a fundamental way that human psychology works. So you could just take my word for it there. But anyway, that's the whole process that I have for increasing lead close rates myself. If you like the video, I have a lot of other videos like this on this channel. You should check them out. I have a blog at guaranteeppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build campaigns that guarantee people's results that we use for our own clients there. So if you'd like to see information in that kind of format, you should check that out. If you have any questions or comments, or think I should have covered something else that I didn't, leave me a comment down below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel within a day or two. Hope you enjoyed though, and the information is useful for you to be able to increase your close rates. If so, let us know.